Let's get it. What's going on, party people? We are here with PartyRock. I am so excited about this. I've been hearing about this all week. And we are with our friend Joe. Joe, introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Joe Fontaine. I am a product marketing manager with AWS AI and ML, and I am the product marketer for PartyRock and Amazon Bedrock Playground.
Man, you guys have a booth here on the expo floor, and I have seen nothing but less than like 20 people deep just talking about PartyRock. We did a little demo with PartyRock on building Bedrock agents for like a brief minute, so I'm very excited that we're going to be going more in depth. And I promise you, we're going to be going like straight to your demo and then asking you questions throughout. So let's go ahead and bring your demo on screen. 3, 2, 1, go. There we go. Haha, power of magic. So what is PartyRock?
Yeah, absolutely. PartyRock is a shareable generative AI app building playground. So it's a place to experiment with some of the fundamentals of generative AI, like text-based prompting, prompt chaining, model selection, and so forth. So you can get a fundamental understanding of how generative AI and prompt engineering works before you move into production environments.
So if our other bestie, Jeff, is like, you know what, I want to find ways to avoid Kyle at reInvent, he could prompt PartyRock and it'll help him build that.
Potentially, yeah. There are some limitations, and you may need to get some personal data around your whereabouts that might make that difficult.
Here's a better scenario. I'm not a data scientist. I don't know what a model is, a large language model. I don't know anything about AI ML.
Yeah.
But I know it's exciting. Everyone's talking about it. How can PartyRock help me out?
Yeah, absolutely. PartyRock is for everyone, and everyone can build AI apps with PartyRock because it is a no-code web-based environment. So not only do you not need to know a line of code, you don't even need to have an AWS account. It is a web-based UI that you can access at partyrock.aws. For a limited time, usage is free. We give you a bunch of credits that you can play around, and you get started building apps just by describing the app that you want. So using natural language, you just ask for what you want, and we're not going to say it's magic, it's not a genie. There are very technical reasons it's working, but that's all you need to be able to do in order to ask for an app. So in the last week and a half since we launched, we've had tens of thousands of applications built by users from all over the world, all different capabilities and expertise, and it's been so exciting to see them shared.
What's been your favorite app that you've built with PartyRock so far?
Ooh, you know, one of the most viewed ones from our hero so far has been the Snarky CDK, which has been...
Snarky CDK.
Yeah, so it gives you recommendations, but it just adds a level of snark and prestige to each one where it's...
So it's like talking to my 2-year-old right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
you should do this, Dad.
I think last week on our Friday show, myself and another host, AM, played with it live on air, and he made an app where you describe an alien, and the application will give you suggestions on how to talk to it, because you probably doesn't speak English or whatnot.
Right, yeah.
And just in a couple of lines, we were able to do that, and then you could share it out to your friends. I made an app, so it's really wonderful. I'm not a developer, and while developing doesn't really scare me, it's not my thing.
Yeah.
I know it does scare some people, and Gen AI scares some folks, and this is seems like a way to make it less scary.
Yeah, absolutely. I too am not a developer. Know a little bit of code where I need to, but PartyRock makes it super easy to make apps in 3 different ways. I personally have I found out the limit of number of apps that you can store is 100, and you have to start deleting from there in PartyRock. So I've made 100 applications now with PartyRock in the last couple months since we've been playing around with this.
Oh, damn.
But you can build apps in 3 different ways. One, you can use the app builder, which, as I mentioned before, you just describe the app you want using this build your own app tool, and we can just describe it. We'll come back to that in just a moment.
Awesome.
2, you can use sample applications. So we've got a bunch that the PartyRock team has made here. I've actually made a few of these myself.
Rad Dad.
Yeah.
John.
Yeah, so you mentioned you have a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
This one provides recommendations for activities that you could do based off of where you live and your child, and gives you tips on better parenting and how you can have a deeper, more engaged conversation and outcomes coaching them through the activities based on where you live. So I made that one.
That is awesome.
I have a 3-year-old.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Obviously. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and the third way is you can build from scratch. So if you're slightly more advanced and you want to really pick apart the widgets and start to learn more of of the underlying techniques in prompt engineering, you can start from a blank page and add widgets to it and go there.
Well, you said something cool, prompt engineering. That's like a piece of generative AI that's important and you have to learn about. And I think some people would be kind of put off by like, oh, well, I have to figure it out first before I even figure out what prompt engineering is.
Yeah.
This is a tool that helps you learn how to engineer prompts and how much of a difference prompts make, and it's just a good learning tool.
Yeah, we use so many scary words, right? And we fancy it up to sound more important. Prompt engineering is just writing natural language commands to a foundation model so that you can get the output, right? So
what's funny is that it should be really easy, but all of us in IT have been used to not being that way.
Right.
That it's hard for typical IT folks to speak in a natural language, to do what you just said, which was just tell it what kind of application you'd like
I was
to
going to say, I sometimes find myself talking like a search query to a search engine, and I just get weird looks.
Well, I use a lot of go-to statements, and so I just get, no one listens to me. So.
And so you showed us some of the sample widgets, or are they apps?
These are
like the Rat Dad. Is that a widget or is that an app?
Yeah, so these are sample applications down below. And so once we get into one of the apps and start messing around with it, we'll show you how you can remix or snapshot other people's apps to create your own apps. It's basically forking applications. So you could take an influence from somebody else and say, here's vin du jour wine pairing. I'm more of a beer guy, not a wine guy. I'm going to change this prompt to give me recommendations around beer instead of wine. It's super easy, and yeah, I'd love to.
Let's do that. Let's, I am a beer guy.
Yeah.
And my wife is a wine person, but sometimes I want to know what beer pairs nicely with my meal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it might be the vin du jour, which sounds great.
It might be. I'll have that. What is the soup du jour? The soup of the day, sir. I'll have that.
Fantastic. So what we're looking at now is the interface for the PartyRock application, vin du jour wine pairing. And you'll notice there's a number of widgets on screen here. Now, they're organized by color in terms of whether or not they're an input widget or an output widget. Input widgets are things like static text, which we see here at the top as an intro. The app creator has just put that text. It's not editable by your app user. Here, where wine is a user input. So this is text that anyone using your application can interact with, and it's going to impact the outcome. Where it gets really cool, all these ones with the green borders on the top, those are AI-powered widgets. So PartyRock has 3 different AI-powered widgets currently. You've got text output, which are the types of ones we're seeing here. You've got chat bots, like we're seeing here in the lower corner, and we can dive into in just a moment. And then image outputs. So we're using a number of foundation models that are all available from Amazon Bedrock, which PartyRock is built on top of, in order to access those base foundation models from providers like Anthropic, Stability, AI21 Labs, and just announced today, Amazon Titan.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is so awesome.
Yeah. And so as you're editing and playing around, let's go ahead and go into our edit version. Now that we have the gray bar up at top, we're editing this application because
which is essentially a fork of this, right?
So when I hit remix before, you may not have caught me do it. So I created a copy of that initial app. That basically saved it to my app drawer, and now I'm able to edit this this app to my liking because I now own it essentially.
Okay.
And so editing these just changes the widget titles, values. As I mentioned before, those are just a user input. It's not AI powered. But if we go into any of these green ones, this is where you can start to learn about how to become more effective with your prompt engineering and generative AI in general. So this widget is a text output. You can see which model we are using in order to get this text output. So when you enter in content here, let's say, I'm not quite this fancy. I don't know about a 2019.
It sounds good. It sounds, the fact that it sounds fancy sounds expensive.
Yeah, I'm more of a TJ's guy myself, if you're familiar. So I'm going to go with a Charles Shaw.
I'm a dessert wine myself.
Oh, let's try a port.
I'm more of a St. Ives kind of person.
So initially, PartyRock is just super fun to play around with in terms of getting the input, seeing the funny output that you get, right? Making these sort of fun, silly apps. It's not meant for production and productivity. It's meant for experimentation. But as you start to dig a level deeper and build these apps, you can start to become more effective at writing your prompts. And what you're seeing here, each one of these widgets has an individual prompt created for it. And if we go back to Model Builder, this was actually created automatically by a LLM for us, but then we can go in and edit it to try and improve it. So tokenization is the conversion of natural language to numbers so that the model can analyze what you're creating. You incur costs in the real world for the tokens that you spend, or the input and output tokens that you get. You can do things to make that more effective in PartyRock by, say, limiting your output to 300 words, or limit my response to 100 characters. Those are ways that you can become more effective in your prompt writing and prompt engineering.
You know, when you were showing the different models, I feel like this can also help kind of determine which model you want to use.
Yeah.
As you're playing around, because this is a playground, a sandbox, but we'll call it a playground.
Yeah.
Because when I look at the different models, I'm just like, I'm going to pick that one because that's the one I hear most about, but it might not necessarily fit my best use case, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a way to experiment with multiple different models, and we take that a step further, right? So PartyRock is free for a limited time for all users, and no credit card required to sign up. However, model cost is a real consideration that you need to understand as you're learning generative AI. So we expose to customers the real-world approximation of those model costs with this handy little visualization on the right here. So these models that are all available have a PartyRock credit consumption associated with them in the model selection, and the ones that have more bars on the right there have a higher real-world token input and output cost. So they're going to consume more of your PartyRock credits. So you might consider, hey, is the output that I'm getting text-wise really great? Yes, it may be, but it's consuming more credits. Can I accomplish this task with a lighter weight model?
So it kind of like lets you right-size the model you're going to be using.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, because that's an important consideration in building in production with your foundation models.
And I imagine if you wouldn't take this and add a widget like for a picture and say, based on, can you give me a picture of these, the appetizer, the main course, and everything, you would obviously choose a different model for like Stable Diffusion, like you just have there.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the AI-powered widgets that we have, the 3 different types, when you select the image widget, it automatically gives you the choice.
So what's interesting is while I was speaking the idea, Joe was doing it, and we have a picture already. So he didn't even let me finish. He knew where I was going with this.
And so now when you go to the grocery store, you could be like, I need this.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and there we have our image output. But you mentioned before you're more of a beer guy than a wine guy.
I like to see myself as more of a beer aficionado.
Yeah, so let's change
the
the
title. They call
titles.
those, oh gosh.
Does that just mean you enjoy bad tasting beer more than good tasting beer, or?
I enjoy the volume that bad tasting beer can be produced, considering the volume that they distribute at.
And do you have a favorite?
St. Ides.
St. IDES?
Yeah, I believe so. Hold on, I have the internet at my disposal too. Yes, IDES.
Have you ever enjoyed the chicken parm, I think, was for our port dish.
What's funny, I was talking about good and bad tasting beer. St. Ides doesn't even register on that.
It is not bad, okay? It is delicious.
And so here in the lower right, we also have a beer sommelier for you as well now. So in addition to getting these individual text outputs, you can also start to chat and say, tell me the
ABV.
tasting notes, ABV, and region of.
Hey, while you're typing this, Joe, we have a question from a viewer. Like, the type of apps that this is generating, and you mentioned you can create the app and share it. What kind of framework is it using? Can you make an iPhone app or an Android app, or what's the kind of limitations right now with PartyRock?
Yeah, that's a great question. So currently you are limited to this web-based UI that we provide on PartyRock. The outputs that are shareable are optimized for social. So if we go ahead and release the changes here that we've saved, we can go up and share, and you do get a URL. So that URL makes it super easy to share on social or directly, but you cannot currently host these externally or as a iPhone or
Gotcha.
Android
Okay.
app. Fantastic.
All right, so we changed this. There's Saint. There's the Saint right there. That's. That's the beauty of Gen AI demos. You really, when it comes to pictures, you never know.
And we didn't even know, we didn't have to do our demo dance to make sure that all the demo gremlins are away too.
Well, and it's important to remember too that PartyRock is about teaching you how to become a more effective prompter, right?
Yes.
And specificity is such a critical part of writing an effective
I was going to say, because I've seen 2 different results, and
yeah, because if you change that to malt liquor instead of just St. Ides, it would probably have a better idea of that.
Well, we made this widget on the fly, and all that it's picking up is an image of, and then it's replacing beer with St. Ides. So if we add beer to that and get a little bit more specific, we'll get a different outcome.
because it was looking at that as a variable or a parameter.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's referencing that widget up above.
This is so fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be honest. I've been.
That's pretty awesome.
You know, I've been, you know, hesitant to Gen AI because there's so much stuff floating around, flying around. It's just, you know, where can I even get started? And this here is, you know, I'm a pretty technical individual, but this is, I feel like, going to help make generative AI more accessible for those that want to get started.
Democratizing.
Yeah, and it's also making it so you can also have fun with it, but also understanding the different models that are available and how tokenization, which is a big thing that I've been hearing across the last week, even when it comes to like the natural language CloudWatch queries too. They talked about tokenization and stuff like that, and like creating queries. This is going to make generative AI much more accessible.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that sounds like a great idea for an app as well. So while you were talking, I went ahead and went back to our app builder page. And now we're going to ask.
Keep Joe under control. He's just like, you know what, here, let me build another app.
Yeah.
We've built 2 of them already.
Rather than answer your question, I'll answer your question with an application.
Fine then.
Yeah, so we'll now build an app that provides a learning path for getting started on any topic to help us develop intuition. And so we can now generate that app here. And while it's thinking, it is working in the background. You've just got to have faith. So just give it a minute.
Yeah,
we'll get there.
Here's another app idea: having conversation starters with strangers at conference parties.
That is a fantastic app idea. Save that to the memory bank.
There we go.
Come back to it. Yeah. So let's say we want to get started with generative AI. You'll notice it auto-corrected for me, so we're good. But even if you do have typos, the model is pretty good based on how large of the training data that these foundation models have been trained on. They're fairly adept at converting those typos and fixing those mistakes and just picking right up on it without missing a beat. So
I feel like that's a very peaceful image about generative AI too. So
it is. It's interesting that based off of that one-line prompt that said, "Give me information on starting learning," that it output these widgets. And so if we back up a moment and talk about how we ended up with this application that we have here, it's really interesting. It's a bit meta. And
I was going to say we were talking about being meta, and you know, so you said it's generative AI built on generative AI.
Yes, exactly. So PartyRock itself is a web application, and it's using generative AI. It's built on top of the Bedrock API. And so when we use that app builder tool that we saw on the front page, it is interpreting that basic description of an application that we'd like to see, sending that to the foundation model on Bedrock, and then it is architecting what its best guess is of the input and output widgets that we'd like to see, creating that framework, and then returning it back to PartyRock as this base application. From there, we then go tuning each widget to our liking and adjusting the prompts. But what's insane is we didn't really do much in terms of describing what we want each widget to do. But it's given prompts for each of those AI-powered widgets. Write a brief 2 to 3 paragraph introduction and overview about the topic. I'm interested in learning more about topic. Please explain the key ideas and provide examples I can relate to. It's done all of that based off of this single sentence description we wrote on the last page.
That's awesome.
It's pretty incredible. And
Jeff is over there inside. I feel like his mind is melting right now.
No, it's not melting. It's just, I remember when I first wanted to learn about just AI ML before generative AI, and I'm not a developer, and I was like, am I going to have to learn the code? And that's not a bad thing, but I remember there were certain tools that had a graphical interface to learn how to train and deploy simple models, and that's what helped me. So I'm excited for this, because there's going to be a lot of people that this is their gateway into doing a lot of great things. And the easier it is to visualize an idea, the better. Because when you have an idea and then like, oh, I have to figure out how to code it, then it stops and you forget about how cool that idea is. You can literally type your idea here and get a good starting point.
That's exactly right. And I think what's so exciting about generative AI in general is the accessibility, right? And the democratization opportunities. PartyRock just embodies that. And we don't want to punish you for being excited and wanting to learn these things. We want to make it as easy as possible to get your hands around this. And you get inspired by the ideas. I've come so far in playing with this in the last 2 months of going from knowing very little to getting to phase 1 and then starting to get more tricky with my prompting and prompt chaining and seeing how far I can push PartyRock before eventually going into Bedrock.
What we said earlier, that natural language is the new language.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah, and Joe, we're coming up on time, but real quick, for those that are at home watching live and on, not on-prem, but here at reInvent, that's where my brain's at. Here at reInvent, where can they learn more about Bedrock and PartyRock and all the things?
Absolutely. PartyRock and Amazon Bedrock Playground. You can head to partyrock.aws to learn more. Check out the apps created by the community on the new Discover page that we just launched on Sunday and start playing around with a whole bunch of foundation models.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. I know I learned a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Thank you. All right.
Perfect.
Stay tuned for more awesome content here at reInvent 2023, Las Vegas.